Last year, Jack Walker, a lifelong supporter of Blackburn Rovers, bought control of his favourite football club. 18 months and nearly £8 million later, his dream of buying success for the club is still alive.
It's been absolutely fantastic, really. It's been like a fairy story.
Jack has set his stall out to achieve, in the next 5 years, greatness for Blackburn Rovers.
I have never ever known anyone in football put so much money into the game. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, for Blackburn as well.
The unbelievable will become a matter of fact if Blackburn beat Leicester City at Wembley this afternoon and win promotion to the new Premier League. This is the team that Jack built, and this is the day when we find out exactly what he got for his money. It would take a television detective to track down the real Jack Walker. Millionaires are two a penny on the treasured island of Jersey. He's enjoyed its peace and privacy since 1974, when this became home. But Blackburn, with its family and footballing ties, is never far away. 9 years ago, his boundless business empire spread its wings again and bought Jersey's airline. The sky's the limit for anything Jack Walker turns his attention to. Big money, big plans, big deals. And yet it all started in Little Harwood, with a little business acumen. This is the Lancashire village in which the young Jack Walker dreamt his boyhood dreams about wealth and Wembley. He grew up in Providence Street. His father, Charles, ran a sheet metal concern with a blend of northern nous and plain hard work. Jack left Bangor Street School at the age of 13, but he stayed on at the youth club a little longer for some lessons in life. The family business was passed on to the young men in the house in 1951. Jack and his brother Fred put Patterson Street well and truly on the map with a backstreet engineering works that grew into the industrial heart and soul of Blackburn and the surrounding communities. The young princes were on their way to becoming kings of industry. But Jack Walker never forgot his roots and never forgot his manners either.
Jack came over very polite, very businesslike, very much get up and go. When they came at first, they had no transport, they hadn't got the wagons that they had now, and they used to come up Highfield Road with a sort of small handcart with steel on it, so it was really very humble beginnings.
The steel business, which started out with £80 to its name after the war, had grown into Britain's biggest and moved into Europe's biggest steel stockholders plant at Guide on the outskirts of Blackburn. Walker Steel was the name at the top of the league. When British Steel moved into the transfer market, the asking price was £330 million. The boy from Providence Street had struck gold.
He always had a saying, think big. And over his desk in his office, that saying went over there and stopped there while he finished. Think big. And he knew we were going places then.
I think it says, I am the boss, and if anybody doubts this, or words to that effect, refer to Rule 1, which is I am the boss. And I think that's down at Ewood Park now.
He worked 20 hours a day, you know, and you can't keep that pace up. You have to be a bit like Maggie Thatcher.
Blackburn Rovers wore halved shirts. West Ham United will be recognised in the picture by their plain dark shirts.
But all work and no play was never Jack's way. He had another passion in his life, Blackburn Rovers.
I really started watching the Rovers around about 46, and I used to enjoy the game then. And we don't seem to have got anywhere in 25 years. I saw the situation where we're definitely going down in the 3rd division. And we've watched other good clubs go in the 3rd and 4th division. It's a death wish to a football club. And I was unfortunate. I managed to sell my business 2 years ago. And I now have the time to do what I always wanted to do and be involved in Blackburn Rovers.
Walker's new hands-on approach to reviving Rovers was confirmed on October the 12th, when he shook hands with Kenny Dalglish on a deal to bring to Blackburn all that he'd brought to Liverpool in his matchless years as Anfield player, manager and living legend. His medal collection favoured the crown jewels, yet it was ended as dramatically as it was gathered.
I regret to announce that Kenny Dalglish told the board yesterday of his wish to retire as team manager.
Some felt Dalglish's resignation marked the end of a memorable career, but Jack Walker was not prepared to become one of them.
Well, I think the ambition that was stressed to me from Blackburn's point of view, how ambitious we want to be, futuristic, and the stability of the club was the thing that was more of the most important thing in my discussions with Blackburn.
Jack Walker was only ever interested in the very best for his beloved Blackburn. Rested and relaxed, Dalglish, the manager with the most impressive CV in football, took his seat at the Rovers' return.
I think Kenny's he's a superb, was and still is a superb football player. Since he was player manager, then became manager, he has a second to none record. He's a bit hard-headed. And I think he'll go for what he wants and get what he wants, and people have to understand him, that he knows what he's talking about, and I feel he can only be good for Blackburn.
Kenny made a good start for Blackburn, a crushing win over Plymouth. There was a smile back on the face of the new manager and his new club. But the old club's greatest days had passed more than a century before, when men were gentlemen. And when John Lewis and fellow public school boy Arthur Constantine called a meeting in 1875 to breathe life into the notion of Blackburn Rovers. 5 times in 8 years, that team won the FA Cup, including an unparalleled 3 in a row from 1884. Not bad for starters. Then a wealthy local industrialist named Lawrence Cotton tried to do a Jack Walker for the club.
When he came here, he did insist that this ground was going to be the finest in the north of England, and that we were going to have the best team in the land. And on both counts, he did achieve this. The ground was opened in 1890, but it was not until the advent of the Great War that it was finished. In Lawrence Cotton's time, the amazing amount of £33,000 had been spent on the development of the ground, and £14,000 had been spent on the purchase of players. There was a public outcry that Blackburn Rovers were spending too much on the development of the stadium and not enough on the players.
Nevertheless, Cotton's investment produced a return of 2 championships in 3 years. In those far-off days, the modern standards were set.
If history says that Lawrence Cotton was builder of the modern Rovers, what are we to say about Mr. Walker? Mr. Walker eventually took control here some 13 months ago, and of course, ever since that day, the club has gone upwards.
In the space of 2 months, Kenny Dalglish took Blackburn from 9th to 1st in the table and delivered 4 new signings. Alan Wright, pound for pound, maybe his best, £500,000 from Blackpool. Back from Manchester City, Colin Hendry, £750,000. The club's first £1 million man, Mike Newell from Everton, and drawn by the magnetism of Dalglish, the evergreen Gordon Cowans.
I think he's got so much respect in the game. You know, when he starts speaking on a Saturday afternoon in his team talk, you know, there's total silence and everyone just sits and listens to what he has to say. Dalglish
let the Walker chequebook do his talking in public. 9 major signings in the space of 6 months. A total outlay of more than £5 million. The word was, what Kenny wants, Kenny gets.
I think the situation is that if Kenny wants a player and the player is the one that Kenny wants, if it's within the parameters of what we've been told that money's available, then yes, the decision basically is the manager's.
The papers would have us believe that Mr. Dalglish comes to the board or to Jack Walker and says, I want to buy a £1 million player. He just writes a cheque. Is that the way it happens?
Well, certainly not the way it happens. Any transfer fees and everything else have to be negotiated. Players' terms have to be negotiated, as would any other club in the country.
We're no different from any side. If there's someone that's better than what you've got at this particular moment, you go out and you try and get them.
I never get my money back. I'm only interested in putting Rovers where they should be. I mean, one of the Blackburn Rovers is one of the greatest football teams in England. They're one of the founder members, and we want them right back on top.
Before Dalglish, Don Mackay tried his hand at converting Walker's millions into the hard assets of results.
Money's only a thing that sits on the table that you can use. It's a very important commodity in football, but it's how it's used, and it will be definitely how that will decide what happens, not just Jack Walker.
Mackay departed on September the 2nd. Tony Park steadied the ship admirably, but Jack Walker had already plotted the future course, his enthusiasm and commitment insatiable.
If there's a reserve game and he hasn't actually seen the result in his paper in Jersey, then he'll ring up and say, how did we go on last night? Yes, full of enthusiasm.
Walker's appetite for success was wined and dined royally during November.
We have a saying at Blackburn, you've got blue and white eyeballs, and Jack certainly has blue and white eyeballs.
When Bristol Rovers came to Ewood on December the 14th, Walker was able to feast his eyeballs on a victory that took Blackburn to the top of the second division. So far, so good. But everything that Blackburn achieved in those first heady weeks was dwarfed by the loss of Bill Fox. On the 9th of December, football mourned the death of a league president. But to everyone at Ewood Park, it was a family bereavement. The chairman who had presided over such momentous changes at Blackburn Rovers was simply and humbly Blackburn Rovers' biggest fan.
Well, I am a supporter. I'm from the Blackburn end and the riverside there. So all I want is to see the team where it should be. Great thrill for me, great honour to be chairman of Blackburn Rovers.
From Jersey, meanwhile, news that there was another football club in Jack Walker's life. He spent a cool $1 million on buying up school playing fields to provide a base for First Tower United, an amateur team on the island. He'd been their patron since 1974, a commitment he honoured with a land deal and a new dressing room complex.
He phoned me up one day and said, Colin, you've got a football pitch. I said, oh, what do you mean? He said, oh, I've just bought St George's School. And knowing this place, I thought, well, it must be an enormous amount of money. And of course, where else could you even think of a chap doing that sort of thing, you know? Nowhere, certainly not in Jersey, you know, it's tremendous.
And you've been looking for ages, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, about 30 years, to my knowledge, yeah.
Unheralded, unsung, Jack Walker had sponsored Jersey's Premier Division and offered to spruce up the island's football headquarters. Different clubs, same approach.
The fact is, I think he really just wants success for both clubs, really, and I won't say he's prepared to go to any lengths to get them, but certainly will go to great lengths to get what he wants, you know.
What Jack Walker wants for Ewood Park comes a little more expensive. The present ground is already a monument to his ambition. The new stadium will be made of Walker steel. £12 million has been earmarked for a 24,000 all-seater arena. Architects who worked on Wembley and Old Trafford have been commissioned to design it.
Mr Walker would like to develop this ground along the lines of the Old Trafford, where you fill in the corners, you have a cantilever roof, and the whole thing gels together. This place, when it's full, it can provide the atmosphere, and atmosphere is something I think he puts great emphasis on.
It's hard business to make a profit out of football, and everyone in the football game knows that. But I believe that if, with my help, by getting them in the right place, when we get the stadium finished and we get the club free of debt, and we're looking forward to better gates, I think, say in 5 years' time, it should be a self-supporting club and going places.
The big time has returned to Blackburn this season, big names attracting big gates. When Kevin Keegan brought Newcastle United to town in February, there were close on 20,000 there to see two of the names attracting big gates. When Kevin Keegan United to town in February, there were close on 20,000 there to see two of the greats of the modern game lock minds. An average gate at Ewood Park last season was 8,000. Now suddenly the place wasn't big enough.
A bit like the Wembley setup, we could have sold it twice over, but because of the limits on the stadium, we are really restricted in what we can do. And of course, the season tickets have been more popular this year. There's a lot more people bought season tickets with the, I'm sure, with the thoughts at the back of their mind that it's going to be Premier League for the club, and consequently tickets on public sale have diminished, but the ground itself, the facilities at the ground itself just aren't big enough now for the demand.
Blackburn have even managed to create a modern market for their oldest traditions.
A very popular area now, especially the replica shirt side of things. And football clubs these days are developing into shops, into sportswear shops, rather than just a souvenir setup. And similarly here at Blackburn, we are now developing into a casual and leisure wear type setup. At the moment, it's just a shop counter, and it's been very, very busy. In fact, on match days, we can't really handle the amount of people coming in.
But in February, the biggest returns were coming from the pitch, where Blackburn seemed to be heading for the title, speedily.
There's a chance there, and Speedie's taken it. This is Hendry. Pulled in for Speedie! Oh, what a special goal that is from David Speedie. Sellers and Cowans trying to conjure something up. Sellers taken away from the goalkeeper by his own defender. Hendry, Speedie hat-trick hunting, and Speedie hat-trick getting.
Happy days were here again.
Wembley for the big match, and about 100,000 people there to see it. Then, with the ball on the spot, there's something of an innovation. The exchange of banners between Bill Slater Wolves and Ronnie Clayton.
The last great Blackburn team had its last great moment in 1960. Only 3 teams have won more FA Cup finals than Rovers, but they arrived at Wembley at war with themselves that year and didn't do justice to the talents of Dugan, Douglas, Clayton and Dobing. An own goal by McGrath set Norman Dealey on his way to win the day, with 2 more for Wolves. The insult added to by injury. A broken leg for David Whelan. But nobody old enough will ever let modern Rovers teams forget the talents of that side. Ronnie Clayton and Brian Douglas won more than 70 England caps between them. Clayton succeeded Billy Wright as national captain. Douglas succeeded Stanley Matthews on the England wing. They came to Ewood Park together as teenagers and returned together to this day.
In our days, when Brian and myself, in our days, I think we were a very, very good side. And I think that was possibly about the best side that there's been for about 40 years. So they do start saying, I wonder if they're as good as our day, because that was the ultimate.
Mr. Walker has sort of invested in this money into the club, and I think this is, well, it's absolutely great for the town. I think what it has done for the opposing team, they treat it as if it's a cup tie now, and every team that play Blackburn Rovers at the moment sort of want to do them down.
I've known him for 40 years. He's a very astute man. His love of football has always been at the club, so it's nice, and it's a pity that nearly all football clubs haven't got to Jack Walker.
I wish he was around when we was football.
Yeah, true.
Kevin Russell onside, Mims out to meet him. Oh, only into the chest of Russell. What a chance for the substitute. He's run it in. A terrible blow for Blackburn Rovers.
As quickly as it all came right, it all went wrong. 6 straight defeats put Dalglish in the public stocks. Money certainly can't buy you love.
It's the same anywhere in the world. Wherever the money is, people want to cut you down, no matter who's in charge. So we're all aware of that, and we just have to take it in our stride.
We can't make excuses. We've had a couple of injuries, and we've got a big squad. We've got a bigger squad as anybody in the league, so at the end of the day, we're not making excuses, and you know, we've only got ourselves to blame if we don't do it.
What's gone wrong? Is it the performance on the pitch? Are people getting a bit edgy, or what?
I can't answer that any more than the loud support. I mean, he sees what I see, and we can't believe what's happened to us, but we believe that there's enough spirit in there for us to win this one.
Blackburn were out of the top 6, out of the playoff places and in the headlines. But the Lancashire Evening Telegraph, well, they'd seen it all before. Peter White has spent the last 20 years writing about Rovers. He's held a few back pages for them in that time.
The one problem with the club is that they've been in the playoffs 3 times, 3 years in a row. They've been so close so many times that the fans become anxious, and that tends to transmit itself to the team, and I think that is probably one of the problems at the moment. It's the pressure, the nerves, wondering, are they going to do it, are they going to fail again? I don't think there's any question that everybody in this town is grateful to Jack Walker for what he's done for his hometown club. I think one of the problems is the expectations are so high. If you spend £5 million, then people expect you to automatically to gain promotion. But of course in football, money doesn't guarantee anything.
And so to another grandstand finish. Home Park Plymouth, May the 2nd. Victory needed to win another crack at the playoffs. Typically, Rovers, having blown a champion lead, threatened to blow their last chance. Struggling Plymouth made it hard with a soft goal. But when the final demand arrived on the doorstep, David Speedie was there to pay their way to the playoffs.
Speedie's on his way here for Blackburn. He's on his hat-trick. He beats Peter Shilton. It's certainly the goal which will take Blackburn Rovers into the playoffs.
3 times in the previous 4 years, Blackburn had played and lost the Russian roulette of the playoffs. In 1989, Crystal Palace ambushed them in extra time.
Made it clear now. That has made it absolutely clear for Crystal Palace with that goal from Ian Wright.
It was devastating at the time. I mean, supporters wrote in and said that they were shattered. Well, if you multiply by 100 how they felt, they maybe got to feel how we felt, because we had worked all year to do it. You should have sat in the dressing room at Crystal Palace. That's Saturday. It'll stick in my mind for the rest of my life. And I said that to the lads, it should be a spur for us for the following season, which it was to a degree, but then at the end of the day we weren't good enough.
Jack Walker's first close-up look at playoff football began against fellow spenders Derby County 2 weeks ago. He felt he'd seen it all by then.
Do you get nervous before occasions like this?
I normally do, but I've got past being nervous anymore. I just believe we're going to win.
Williams. Now Paul Simpson. Johnson has made a run down the inside leg channel. There's outstretched Hendry, and Mimt is committed. And Derby are 2 up. And the playoff nightmare is happening for Blackburn Rovers all over again. Hendry and May are still in there. Mike Newell. Good shot! Cowans and Atkins and Newell, and it's fallen for Atkins off Comin, and a great chance here for David Speedie, and Blackburn Rovers are in front at last. Newell got away from Comin, he's got Speedie in support, David Speedie, 4-2, they're unstoppable.
Three days later, and the ground gained at Ewood Park in the first leg had been defiantly defended in the second leg at Derby. Blackburn, for only the 4th time in their distinguished history, were going to Wembley. Cause for celebration, cause for optimism. Kevin Moran's true grit had carried Kenny Dalglish to within 1 step of the summit. The team that Jack built is almost there.
The people that come and watch, they also appreciate the role that Jack Walker's played, because without Jack Walker being here, and there might not have been too many of us here either. So it's always nice to have money to spend, and anybody that tells you otherwise is telling you a little bit of a white lie, I think.
Jack Walker must be the most popular man in Blackburn.
I suppose really he is, yes. He's, you know, he's brought the football club, you know, to life.
He's a genuine fan too. We're watching him bouncing about during the game. He's into it more than anybody.
Well, that's why I moved away from sitting next to him. I had no shin pads.